Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced, and this game was played yesterday. With the white pieces we have current reigning world champion, we have Gukesh and with the black pieces we have Levon Aronian. Levon Aronian has been an absolute beast in recent tournaments. He's been crushing everyone. He has, I think, won 3 top tier tournaments and crushing Magnus, crushing Hikaru, crushing everyone. So it's just very difficult to beat a person who's not really, not really just plays amazingly, but you have to understand that luck is in his side as well. So it's very difficult to play a person who has constantly been having that momentum. So but let's see what Gukesh has in store for him. With the white pieces, he goes for d4. We have knight to f6, c4, e6, and knight to f3. We have b6, g3, queen's Indian defense, and this is going to be very interesting because Levon is definitely trying to get a win in the head. Bishop to a6 now, and now just b3, d5, and bishop to g2. Now just bishop to b4 check. We have knight bd2, and just immediately going for c5. Now there is certain trouble. I mean, you have to understand, if captures, then you won't be able to recapture. So you have to be a little bit careful. Bishop to b2 now, but just knight to c6. Knight to c6 is not a good move in this position. The issue with knight to c6 is that knight bd2 is normally the main idea. You castle, and the game goes on with everything being defended, and central tension still not withheld, and everything is just working fine. But now with knight to c6, there is some issues in this position, because now comes d captures, but after b captures, now just a3. And where are you moving the bishop? If you move the bishop back, then you have to understand that there are there are chances that that bishop can get trapped. So you have to be very cautious here. And not only that, I mean, even if you think it's not about just the bishop getting trapped, it's if you capture, then you have to understand your bishop is there hanging. So that's also an issue. And here, after bishop caps on d2, I mean, you could trade, but you have to understand that's not going to work out, because knight captures and rook to c8. And now comes the beautiful idea that was there in the position all along, and that happened because of this knight to c6, that is b4. And now you see it, and now you understand that Levon has actually set up a position that's not going to be easy to defend. That's why you don't go knight to c6 in this position. I mean, just putting it out there, so you don't make this mistake in your opening prep. D caps on c4 now, but after queen to a4, now there's lot of pressure. I know the rook and the queen can defend, but still a lot of pressure. Queen to b6, we have b captures, queen to b5, and after queen captures, b captures, now just going for a4. Bishop goes back to a6, but now rook to c1. Now Gukesh is saying, I'm going to capture that pawn. That pawn is going to be an extra pawn, somewhere along the line. I'm going to push it forward. It's going to become a pass pawn, and now I'm going to have an amazing position. You're going to have to constantly defend with the black pieces, and that's not something you wanted to do, because you played King's Indian because you wanted to win this game. But now it's going to be the actual opposite. But you have to understand, Levon plays spectacular defensive chess. It's just so difficult to beat Levon. Even if he has made a blunder right from the opening, it's just he has so much resources in his pockets. It's like he never runs out of them. Here, knight to a5 was played. Now this is the best move recommended by the engine, by the way. He's playing it with absolute engine perfection from here onwards. Bishop to c3 now, absolute best move recommended by the engine again. Knight to b3, knight captures, pawn captures, and now just going for the c6, pushing that all the way. That is the best move recommended by the engine. All engine moves here, I mean, nothing else. We have knight to d5 now, again another engine move. This is the only move, by the way, that saves the game for Levon, by the way. Just putting it out there. Bishop caps on g7 now, giving up a pawn with that. Rook to g8, and now just bishop to e5. Bishop to e5 is the only good move, because if you play a move like bishop to d4 targeting that pawn, then you have to understand rook lift happens with a tempo that also comes with an attack towards that pawn. And with this pawn being so far ahead, you have to understand this pawn is not going to be that good. And if you're able to push this and get the rook there, it's going to be very dangerous. Here in this position, f6 was played. Again, the best move. He's played 10 engine moves right from the opening blunder, and you have to understand, this is why it's so difficult to beat these kinds of players, because they are absolutely precise. Bishop to b2 now, the perfect move again. And now rook to g4, because again, you cannot play, because this would have come with a tempo. And now in this position, you have to understand. I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try and find out the only winning move for Gukesh in this position while I give you a couple of seconds. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move. And the move is not e4. E4 looks so tempting. I mean, it just looks so tempting. But e4 is not the right way to go, simply because of the fact that e4 cuts the defense of that pawn towards the bishop that would be there if this knight ever moves, and you're going to have to move the knight somewhere along the line, because if you don't move the knight, you're just a piece down. With these bishop pair, I'm going to wreak havoc into your position. But now the best move was f4. F4 with the idea of cutting off this rook, and you can do it in style. And yes, knight captures on f4 is a tactic. You cannot capture back, but you have bishop to f3. And now comes the main idea, which is knight captures on e2. And the annoying thing about this is you cannot capture this because simply because of the fact that if you capture this with the bishop, then just comes rook here, and you just lost. There is nothing you could do. So here, after knight captures on e2, you just capture the rook, and now after knight captures here, now you have to understand, and now just comes bishop captures and rook captures. So you've lost the pawn, but you're up a piece. So maybe just maybe you'll be able to hold. This pass pawn is just too advanced. That's why this position is a draw. And otherwise, it would be winning for Gukesh. But again, somewhere along the line, you're gonna have to give up the bishop back, and that to do that with. I mean, somewhere just put the rook behind the pass pawn, push that. It's going to be very much difficult to hold. Even if you go for this, then the rook joins in. There are some ideas of checks. I mean, you can pick up a few pawns along the way, but bishop is going to have to go. That's why, I mean, most likely it's going to end in a draw. But here, after rook to g4, that was the best move, and that was the best play, because you're up a piece, so you might be able to push for a win in this position. But that's the best that Gukesh had. But again, e4 is not a good move, and that's because there are ideas of actually the move in this position Levon had to find was knight to b6. Knight to b6 with the idea of just putting some pressure on that a4 pawn. Not only that, you put some pressure, I mean, you also defend that, so rook can move, that pass pawn cannot be pushed. Somewhere along the line, you're going to cut off the defense of the rook, and now put that knight there, attacking the bishop. Also, pawn isn't defended, so that pawn could be captured. So there are many ideas, and knight to b6 is the root of them all, and that's the best move. And Levon can defend this position and be a happy person that he blundered right from the opening. But now you can just go for a draw. But in this position, Levon goes for knight to f4, and knight to f4 is an okay move. It's a second best move, but it's not the best move. And somewhere, just a little bit, if you give your opponent, it just turns to absolutely insane things. And this is in the position, so you have to be very much careful. Here the best move is bishop to f3. That was played by Gukesh. We have knight to d3 check, king to d2, and now just rook to g5. Rook to g5, the absolute perfect engine move, the only move that saves the game. And it does, because you have to understand that bishop captures on f6 is the only move that can be that can lead to maybe a draw in this position. Knight captures was played, but after this bishop captures, we have b2, and it looks like you're promoting, but you're not, because king to c2, and now there is no promotion. Rook to b8 now, the only move that saves the game for Levon in this position, and also allows him to be able to hold a draw. But bishop to h5 check, and now comes king to f8. And here in this position, I think Gukesh was down to 30 seconds. You have to make a few more moves to reach time control, and rook captures on c1 is the only move, sacrificing the exchange. And after b captures with the queen, you play bishop captures, rook to c8, and now just bishop goes. That pawn is going to be going, but you have a bishop pair. You're up a lot of pawns. You're up 2 pawns actually. That's precisely equal material. But again, this position is the only position, when you have to understand that white has no risks. It has no risks, because bishop is defending all of these pawns. Somewhere around the line, you're going to push h4. That pawn is going to go either way, so you're just going to push that pawn all the way, get it on a dark square. So one bishop is going to defend everything, and the other bishop is going to try to attack, try to get one of these pawns. You're going to get the king into the game, and most likely it's going to be white who's going to be pushing. So Levon has to be very much careful. Rook captures on c6 with a check was played, king to b3, and now bishop to d3, just targeting this pawn. But a5 now first, because now if you capture this, just that captures, and I get a pass pawn. That central pawn was not worth that much, because you're never going to be able to push that pass pawn. So still a6 now, you cannot capture. If you capture, you just lost. e5, and now just king to g7, bishop to f3, and now just rook moves. So all in all, the position is still a draw, but I think Gukesh is going to try and push. And this is a long game. Buckle in, because we're in for a ride. Because here h4, now comes h6, and now just going for this bishop to d4, and this is the 40th move. Gukesh reached it with 15 seconds on his clock, and now you can just relax, because you get extra 30 minutes. Rook to f8 was played, attacking the bishop. Bishop to g4, attacking the pawn. And there are not many good ways in this position that you can defend that pawn with. You cannot play a move like that. The position would absolutely crumble. So after king to f7, this is the only move. bishop to e3 now, just trying to go for that. But in this position, Levon plays a beautiful move. He goes for rook to g8, attacking the bishop, bishop to d1, and now comes a beautiful, beautiful rook to d8. Now, what do you do in this position? Do you dare to capture that pawn? Because if you do, then you have to understand that the endgame that you're going to be reaching is not going to be a favorable endgame, and most likely you're going to lose the game. So let's not get carried away. Bishop to h5 is the only move, and bishop to g6 was played, but now just comes bishop to f3, rook to b8 check, and just blocking and just going for again bishop to d3, king to c3, attacking the bishop, bishop to f1, and just h5, pushing it all the way, because somewhere along the line you're going to push all these pawns, create a pawn storm, and maybe just try to go for the win. But Levon again has to be very much careful. Rook to c8 check was played, king moves back, and now just rook to c4. So he has managed to get the rook from the back ranks and to forward, but is it going to be enough? Well, let's see. Bishop to d1, we have rook to e4, now attacking that pawn. Are you going to defend it? Yes, with f4. Might seem like weakening the position, but it's not. That's the only move. Rook to b4, we have king to e3, bishop to b5, and now just comes bishop to c2. So slowly but surely, he's improving, Gukesh, but he needs to actually win this position. Otherwise, it's going to be very much difficult and dangerous, because if in any case you lose even a single pawn from this pawn chain, your position could absolutely crumble. So you have to find the perfect moves, defending and while also pushing just a little bit. King to g8, g4 now, and now comes rook to b2, bishop to g6, rook to b3 check, and now just comes king to d2. And in this position, rook to b2 check was played, king to c3, and in this you had to go for rook to f2. Rook to f2 is the only move. Rook to f2 or rook to g2 is the only moves that ensures a draw. But in this position, Levon went for rook to e2, and now there is actually a winning move for Gukesh. And I mean, in no universe, when I saw the winning move, I was watching the stream of Chess Base India, and I saw the winning move. I was like, no way, no way you find this move. It's impossible. It's such a dubious move that you just cannot even see it. But Gukesh in this position actually finds the move, and I was like, bro, this guy is a genius. How did he find? How did he find this beautiful move? And the move is bishop to d8. It's such a difficult move to spot, simply because of the fact that once now you give a check and you get the rook to f3 trying to attack the pawn, or to g3, you just push and you're just in a completely winning position, and that was all. But in this position, after rook to e3 check, king to b4, king to b4 is the only move. You cannot go here because this check picks up the bishop, so you have to be careful. But now bishop to d3 was tried. This was the last resort that Levon had, but Gukesh had just 40 seconds on his clock, and he was visibly pissed at this moment that he did not have enough time, and he knows that he needs more time to be able to win this endgame. But he was completely winning. And the move that you had to find, if you want to pause the video, the move that you have to find in this position to be able to win the game is a disgusting engine move, which is this bishop to b6. And it's just impossible to find this move. Let's say you play bishop to b6, white wins, rook to h3, now you play bishop captures, rook captures, and after king to c5, now it's impossible to do anything. King is just infiltrating, and there is no way you could defend with so many pawns. Rook to f3, try to grab the pawns, but my a pawn is a bit too fast. King to c6, rook caps on f4, king to b7, rook caps on g4, king caps on a6, rook to e4, king to b7, and now after rook caps on e5, a6, rook to e1, now just going for a7, rook to a1, 8, queen, rook captures, and now after this captures, this is going to be completely winning for white. And yes, that was the idea, but it's just so difficult to find. Once you find rook to b8, and then you've just kept the bishop there, you feel like that bishop belongs there because it belongs on this diagonal. You want to push those pawns. Why would you play it back and attack the rook? And I mean, it's just so difficult to find these moves. There's 40 seconds on the clock, and you need to be an absolute computer. I mean, this was genius, finding bishop to d8. I mean, just really applaud Gukesh for that move, because that's absolutely insane. No one finds bishop to d8 in this position, but he found it. But again, you have to find two such moves, and that's just crazy. But here, just king to c5 was played. This looks like a normal move, but it leads to a draw. That's absolutely crazy. Bishop caps on g6 was played. This is the only drawish move. H captures, rook to g3, and it's a draw. But you have to be careful because Gukesh only has a bishop, so you have to be very careful. King to b6, rook caps on g4, king caps on a6, rook caps on f4, king to b5, and now just going for king to d7, king to b5 with the idea that rook cannot infiltrate from behind. So now just a6, now rook to f8, rook to f8, only drawing move. Now you could go for a move like this after captures, just get there and maybe just go for that. But Gukesh tries to trick here go for another trick. He goes for bishop to h4, and bishop to h4 is a very, very beautiful idea, because here after king caps on g6, you have to understand you cannot just directly, go for that, and neither can you push the pawn. So you have to be. And now if you try to go for like a7, and that was played in the game, king to a5, the trap was that you cannot capture. If you capture king caps on e5 after, like, let's say you play king to b6, if you capture in this position king caps on e5, then the game's over. Simply because of the fact that you have this very nice bishop to g3 check. Now wherever you move, the game is just, I mean, wherever you move, the bishop is going to join in the party. Next I'm queening, so yeah, I'm winning this game. But after king to b6, I mean, Levon is not going to fall for such things. We have bishop to f2. This move was played with just 10 seconds on the clock, and this is absolutely a blunder, simply because of the fact now you have to find king to g4. King to g4 is not actually a very easy move to spot, because you have to see like 10 moves ahead, and Levon had like 4 minutes on the clock. So he could have done it, but I don't think he was in the mood, because you've already played 68 moves game. It's just very difficult to spot these moves. King to g4 is winning, because after bishop to g1, now you play king to g3. This is the only winning move. h4 does not win, because now after you move h4, a8 queen, rook captures, king captures, now h3, and there is no stopping king to g2. And wherever you move the bishop next, I'm gonna promote, and you just can resign in this position. But why h4 does not win? H4 is a draw. Why h4 is a draw? Bishop to h2, and now you have to go all the way. I'm always gonna have at least 2 squares gap, so there is nothing you can do. Let's say you play king to f3, king to b7, king to g2, bishop to f4. You cannot capture. If you capture, I'm queening. Now you play rook to h8, but after a8 queen, rook captures, king captures, h3, but after king to b7, now you play king to f3, and after bishop to h2, king to g2, bishop to f4. Most likely this is going to lead to a perpetual, and yeah, this is the draw. There is nothing you can do. but king to g4 was still a very nice idea to be able to win the game. But in this position, Levon went for rook to a8, and this is just a complete draw now. King to b7, rook caps on a7, bishop captures, just king captures, king to c6, h4, bishop to f2, h3, and now just bishop to g3. This is a draw now, and there is nothing you can do. King to e4, king to d6, we have just bishop, king to f3, bishop to e5, king to g2. Now king captures, h2, bishop captures, and after king captures, now it is a draw by insufficient material. This was a beautiful, beautiful game, an endgame masterpiece, if you will. I mean, you could just analyze that endgame for hours, and it would be absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I mean, only person that was going to push right from the opening was Gukesh, but I mean, finding those engine lines is very, very difficult. I mean, you cannot find those beautiful engine moves, brilliant engine moves on move 68 when you're exhausted playing 5 hours of chess, and find bishop to d8. That was applaudable, but after again finding bishop to b6, it's just it's just unhuman, to be honest. It's very, very difficult to find those moves. And but yeah, even I mean, Levon wasn't able to find the king to g4 move. I mean, this is just too much. I guess we are expecting a bit too much, but still a brilliant game played by both of these very, very strong players. It was really a joy to watch, and a really beautiful game. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very much.